Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Before we start the breakdown, I want to warn you that there will be spoilers for Halo Infinite's campaign in this video, so if you haven't played through it yet, which I highly recommend you do, I'll warn you now that there will be story spoilers throughout this video. When the campaign opens, we see the Battle of the Infinity, with the Master Chief being defeated by Atriox, the leader of the Banished. Throughout this cutscene, it becomes very unclear on who, if anyone, in the UNSC survives the battle after their best hero being defeated with ease. But after this cutscene ends, we jump to somebody on a Pelican, waking up after presumably being knocked out during the battle. We see him rushing to contain an air leakage in the Pelican, and falling after successfully containing the leakage. After this, a holo message begins playing. The message is from the pilot's family, a wife and a daughter. After the camera pans around the message, the pilot picks up the hologram puck again, with the message playing. When we see the pilot again, it shows him with a full beard, indicating that much time has gone by. In this case, 6 months. This transition shows that he has been constantly listening to the message, with hope that he would be able to go home one day, even shedding a tear after the message ends. However, only a few seconds later, after the message stops playing, his ship AI notifies him that a friendly signal had been detected, making him jump up and rush to try and hail the friendly signal. But when he wipes the frost off of the windshield, he sees the Master Chief drifting in space. After pulling the Spartan into the hull of the Pelican, he manages to take the Master Chief's armor out of survival mode and powers him back up. He pleads that this works, hoping that he doesn't die, or isn't dead already, so he can leave the mess that he ended up in. Luckily, this works, allowing the Master Chief to be brought back online, and with it, hope. After the Chief fully regains control, the pilot shows him the damaged world that is Zeta Halo, and how the UNSC lost everything. But before they can talk anymore, their Pelican is intercepted by a banished ship's stasis beam, leaving them no immediate escape. When this happens, the pilot gives the Spartan the only weapon he has to go and fight the banished forces on the ship. This weapon is a sidekick with 1 bullet, suggesting that the pilot had very little hope before discovering the Master Chief. After the Chief scuttles the ship, the pair leave and head to the source of an encrypted message sent from the underbelly of Zeta Halo, which turns out to be the weapon, Master Chief's AI copy of Cortana, made to lock Cortana down for deletion. The journey to this weapon gets much pushback from the pilot, however, as he still wants to run and avoid possible death by the Banished. Even with the Master Chief, the pilot still has little hope for survival of humanity and the UNSC, saying that they have already lost. The mission does commence though, and the Master Chief successfully retrieves the weapon, takes down Termonius, a Banished chieftain, and reclaims a UNSC forward operating base controlled by the Banished. After the pilot lands at said forward operating base, he jumps at seeing the weapon. He believes her to be Cortana, which he isn't totally wrong about, and is scared that she is the one that got him into this mess in the first place. The Chief immediately comforts him though, telling him that it isn't Cortana, and that she was made to delete her, saying that Cortana was no longer a threat to them. After this exchange, the group is off, punching through a banished prison known as the Tower that kept a Spartan Griffin. Before his death, Griffin told the Chief of this place called the Conservatory, which the group quickly heads to, where the Chief meets the Harbinger, an entity of an unknown species who is kept on Zeta Halo, dug up by the Banished. The Harbinger's goal is to release the Endless, which is presumably the species of the Harbinger, and to repair the damaged ring for the use of the Banished. After a swift fight with the Chief, where the Chief gets tossed around by the Harbinger, he enters a spire that was made to repair the damaged ring. They also learn that there is a hastily growing number of these spires, which is bad news for the Chief. After shutting the spire down and escaping by free-falling into the Pelican gets shot down by banished anti-air cannons. While Chief wants to shut down the AA guns that caused them to crash, the pilot wants to search the UNSC ship graveyard to see if there are any remaining UNSC Condors with working slipspace drives. The Chief, however, doesn't like that idea, worrying for the pilot's safety. He tells the pilot that they can search together after he shuts down the AA guns. With hesitation, he supposedly agrees and goes back into the safety of the Pelican. After Chief fights through the AA guns and takes down 2 more Spartan killers, he finds the pilot searching wreckage of UNSC ships. In much frustration, the pilot tells Chief how there was nothing left in the area for them to escape in, and continues to argue with the Chief about how there was no hope left for them or humanity. And then, his rant takes a turn, as he says that he belongs in those crashed ships with the crew that went down with them. He frustratingly explains, and I quote, "Not this. I'm not you. I'm not a pilot. I'm not even a soldier, a Marine. I'm a fraud. I stole that Pelican. I stole it. You know why? Of course you don't. Have you ever been scared? So scared that you..." He then quickly trails off and gets down on his knees in frustration. "I'm worthless. You should leave me here with the rest of the garbage." So now we know that in the midst of the attack on the Infinity, the pilot, a civilian contractor, stole the Pelican and ran. This scene shows the immense regret and survivor's guilt that he sustained after running and surviving. But then, the Master Chief does something unexpected. He gets down on one knee next to the pilot and says, "We all fail. We all make mistakes. It's what makes us human." He explains that how he should have protected Cortana, which shows that he still holds immense guilt, thinking he caused all of the tragedies that happened because of Cortana. He thinks that he failed her, but he says that he will not fail the pilot. Chief and the weapon go on to say that they need him, and that the only way they're getting home is straight through the heart of the Banished. This talk starts to give the pilot confidence and hope, as this shows that he and the Chief are both human, and they both make mistakes, but that can also mean that they can make things right if they work together. So from here on out, the pilot understands that if they work together, there may be a chance that they can survive. He stands by as the Master Chief punches through the beam structures to gain access to the command spire, and watches as Chief shuts it down, which shuts down the rest of the spires, stopping the repair of the ring. But when he goes in to extract the Chief and the weapon from the spire, the Spartan killer, known as Jaga Erdumnai, appears in the cockpit of the Pelican and destroys the controls of the ship. This causes the Pelican to spin out of control, with the Master Chief not being able to do anything to stop it. Chief quickly jumps into a portal constructed by the weapon that should take them close to wherever the Pelican crashes. When they get through the portal, they find themselves near the House of Reckoning. The House of Reckoning is the main Banished base on Zeta Halo, and is the place where the pilot is being held prisoner. Chief quickly fights through the waves of enemies that Escharum throws at them, and advances to a room that houses a broken UNSC ship, which Chief quickly gets trapped inside. He quickly sees that he's been lured into a trap by Jaga Erdumnai, and fights through the strong and powerful Sangheili warrior. After defeating Jaga, Chief finds himself in the room where the pilot is being held, but before he can free him, Escharum himself drops down from the ceiling to fight the Chief. In a manner of self-sacrifice, the pilot tells Chief to run, and that he shouldn't have come for him. But of course, Chief doesn't listen, and stays to defend his friend and cut into the leadership of the Banished. After defeating Escharum and giving him an honorable death, he frees the pilot. After being freed, the pilot questions giving him an honorable death momentarily, but Chief tells him that he was, like himself, just a soldier at the end of the day. After this encounter, they quickly move on to the larger threat, the mystery of the Silent Auditorium. Chief, like he always does, punches through the enemies and meets the Harbinger once again in the auditorium, and subsequently killing her. But before she dies, she exclaims that the Endless will return and will ascend to the mantle, which is for a whole separate video of itself. In the Silent Auditorium, they also find out the fate of Cortana and her real story, which is also for another video. After the large fight is over, and Chief jumping through an unknown portal that spits them out 3 days in the future, the team rides away in a Pelican. During their ride, they answer some questions about each other that we have all been wondering throughout the campaign. Mainly, what was the pilot's name? I debated using his real name for the entirety of this video, but figured it would be best fit for this ending reveal. The pilot reveals his name is Fernando Esparza, with Chief congratulating Esparza on his good work, calling him a soldier. The weapon also calls herself Cortana, which is an interesting choice, but we can discuss that at a different time. So, the pilot went through a lot with his time on Zeta Halo, originally wanting to run and hide, trying his best not to get into dangerous situations where he could die, which in some ways is fair. But after telling the truth of his actions to the Chief, and the Chief giving his motivational pep talk, Esparza turns over a new leaf and becomes more hopeful and selfless. A larger theme that all three of these characters go through in this story is the overcoming of grief each of them have. Throughout this story, they learn to stop thinking about the past and think more about how they can make things right in the future. So, that was my breakdown of Fernando Esparza, Echo 216, or the pilot, whatever you want to call him. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, as I put a lot of work into producing it. Please subscribe, as I will be uploading more about other characters, the story as a whole, and other Halo Infinite related videos. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.